This is Changemakers with Katie Goar, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
This week's Changemaker is Yvonda Bean, the CEO of the Indianapolis Housing Agency and their nonprofit affiliate, Insight Development Corporation. Yvonda is a national leader and transformative leader with 25 years of a track record that proves that she can turn around housing agencies and improve the quality of affordable housing in the communities she works, driving over $100 million in development and earning the prestigious NARO Professional Advocate of the Year Award. Yvonda, thank you for joining me on the Forbes Quadell Changemakers podcast today.
Thank you, Katie. It's absolutely my pleasure.
It is so great to have you here. I want to hear all of the things about Indianapolis. But first, let's take a journey about where you've been, because that 25-year track record, I'm sure, has come with some great lessons learned, bumps and bruises, and wisdom. So let's kind of like go back even before Indianapolis and have you describe uh, as being a leader in this space, what has been some of the housing challenges that you have seen and you've been able to overcome so far?
Yeah, that's a great question, Katie. Let me again say first how much I appreciate the opportunity to join your podcast. You yourself are a force within the affordable housing industry, and it's truly an honor to sit with you and have this conversation on today. So what have I seen and what have we overcome? There is much to tell, of course. One of the biggest challenges across the industry in general is always that there aren't enough resources to go around, right? We have tremendous needs, but just not enough, again, money to address or resolve some of those needs. But we have been forced to be more creative and outside of the box thinkers in order to be able to better meet the needs of those that we serve. We pride ourselves on being housers. I pride myself on being a houser. The reality, however, is that we do more than housing. My personal and professional goal, every agency I've been at, has always been to address the needs of the family holistically. And so I've been able to do that across the country through the creation of really some unique partnerships. One that comes to mind has happened when I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. Lafayette Housing Authority was in receivership when I joined the agency, and that agency was turned around within 18 months, and we were ahead of the 3-year original schedule to turn things around. And that was due to a commitment of some really great professionals, some seasoned professionals at that organization, passionate professionals at the organization, as well as commitments from HUD and also the local government and a supportive board. It was really a collaborative effort, not anything that I did. But when in Lafayette, one of the most notable accomplishments was partnering with a plethora of agencies, public and private, within Lafayette to address the increased number of individuals that were coming out of prisons.
Mm.
Louisiana, in particular, had some of the highest incarceration rates. And so, when those individuals got out of jail, oftentimes housing was one of the first things that they needed, right?
Mhm.
Among other things,
Right.
for housing is that foundation. And so, we were able to partner with a group out of New York to create a program that would allow us to safely and responsibly house individuals that were coming out of prison. But through that partnership, we connected again with a number of other community partners who provided some additional supports beyond housing. Very successful partnership. We were able to keep hundreds of individuals who had just gotten out of prison housed, and so we were really proud of that accomplishment. That's one unique accomplishment. Another challenge, I would say always, is that there just isn't enough housing to go around. And I have at different agencies been able to partner with mental health associations. That's one that's certainly noteworthy, to designate units for individuals who might be receiving mental health services. So that's another unique type of
Hmm. Yeah.
partnership beyond just providing housing that we've been able to successfully do over the course of my career. So those are just, I guess, a couple of examples. I could go on and on about some of the unique housing partnerships that I've been able to foster to create more housing. My last role as CEO in Columbia, South Carolina, I led the charge of realizing over $100 million in new construction development,
Wow.
and not your um, traditional or typical public housing. As we know, the industry has been moving away from public
Hmm.
housing. And so I'm really proud and honored to have been afforded an opportunity to lead the charge of realizing that much development and that many units of housing for the families that reside in Columbia, South Carolina.
Something really unique about you, and you've been tapped a couple of times to turn around housing authorities that were in crisis, headed toward crisis. Um, from your experience, are there a few things that you would say to your colleagues to keep them from going into crisis?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, every agency I have led, one of my critical areas of focus is always on people. And people includes residents, of course, community partners, because relationships are extremely necessary for the advancement of housing, but also staff. I would say to my colleagues that take time to invest in your people. My experience and what I have found is that when you invest in people, when you take care of people, they tend to take care of you. I've been extremely successful at every agency that I've been a part of in really shifting cultures, right? Shifting how people feel about their jobs, giving them the assurance. I've been effective in giving them the assurance that what they do matters.
Mhm.
And matters not just to the organization, but matters to the residents, matters to the community. And so I've been really intentional about making certain that I invest in people, and I would certainly encourage my colleagues to do the same. I am a huge proponent of professional development and training. And I can, hear smaller agencies now saying, well, we can't afford professional
Yeah.
development and training. Again, speaking to resources, I know that sometimes that can be a challenge, but there are lots of
Mhm.
free training opportunities out there. So I would encourage them to seek out those opportunities again, invest in their people, even cross training, which wouldn't cost them anything,
Right.
just affording them an opportunity to learn something new or learn something different says that you care about them. And again, I found that to be really effective. So I would first say again, invest in people, relationships. I'm answering your question a little bit differently, focusing really on people because people are the core of what we do. The people
Mhm.
are the why we do the work that we do. But But in answering your question, the three things that I would encourage my colleagues to focus on when I say people, it's because it's the core, but people as in staff, people as in community, it's okay to let your community partners in. It's okay to share in some of the successes that you're having as an organization. People don't always realize the the financial impact that housing authorities have within a community.
Mhm.
We're putting millions, in some community, billions of dollars in the pockets of landlords on an annual basis across the country, right? That's pretty significant. And one of the things that we don't do the best job of always is telling our own stories. And so we have to make certain that we are, saying it to the mountains that this is the type of economic impact that we have within our own respective communities. But again, that speaks to the partnerships and the relationships that you have with landlords in all of our collective efforts to create
Mhm.
affordable housing for those in need of affordable housing. And then the third thing I would say is, of course, the residents,
Mhm.
the residents. I tell you, I am so. It's certainly what makes me love my job. It's part of my job that I love the most. Having the opportunity to be in the company of some of our residents. Some might say it in reverse, right? But for me, there is always so much that I learn from sitting down and engaging our residents. They enjoy and appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
all that it takes. So I would certainly encourage my colleagues, as busy as we are, to make time to sit down with the residents, to make time to get in front of residents, just so that they know that you've not forgotten about them. That's something I'd say is a recurring theme that I've heard when I've joined organizations just across the country, that we don't feel heard. We don't feel that the agency, the authority understands our needs. We don't believe that they're really interested in helping us and providing the quality affordable housing that we deserve. And that's too bad. They shouldn't
Mhm.
feel that way. I know we don't want them to feel that way. So I think the third and last thing would be to be intentional about connecting with residents.
Mhm. I just read an article a couple of days ago that said, when you're confronted with a crisis, you admit, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, here's what we need to improve on. And it came down to such a subtle reality that, when you are engaging in a crisis moment or you're trying to build the trust, especially of the residents, it doesn't have to be some fancy communication portal, right? It doesn't have to be something with all the bells and whistles. It could come down to a very, very directed communication plan. Is there a secret sauce that you use when you build trust with the residents? Because you're often having to come into that same kind of crisis. Um, is there other than just you being you, which is phenomenal because your charisma comes through, any room, but could you, reveal any secret sauce that you use to build that trust?
One word actually comes to mind when it comes to building trust, and that is transparency.
Okay.
Oftentimes, we're so busy trying to keep others that may not be directly involved with the work we do out, that
Mhm.
we miss those opportunities to bring them in and allow them to support and help us in the ways that we need it. One real secret is certainly in when facing a crisis is transparency. Speaking to what you just talked about, saying what it is that we are up against, being truthful about that, being honest about that. If you don't know how we're going to resolve whatever the crisis might be at that time, it's okay to say that. But when you're saying that, you give them the reassurance that you're committed to working with them to figure it out. That goes a long way. People often don't see us as CEOs as being human, right?
Mhm.
And so when you are transparent and you aren't bashful about whatever your weaknesses might be or your concerns might be as an agency, it allows people to appreciate you more as being like them, right? Relatable, because in life you're going to face challenges that you don't always have the answers to, but you always seemingly get through those challenges, and they're not usually by yourself. It's not usually done by yourself, right? In a silo. And so transparency, I have found to be extremely effective in a crisis. Um, and I'll also say that one thing that I've found effective is I don't run away from. I guess the best way to describe my um, style, if you will, as a leader is that I tend to run to the fire instead of away from the fire. I don't know if that's good or bad, right? I've been called a few unfavorable names as a result of that being really who I am. But I am a problem solver. It is attractive to me to um, in it to find myself in positions or situations that require fixing, to require resolve, resolution. I am definitely one of those people that is solutions driven, and so when I do, or I am faced with challenges, or I have an opportunity to address a challenge, I do it with open arms and a smile on my face always. Oftentimes, you'll never know that I am going through something or that I am even facing a challenge because my demeanor in general is one that is really calm. Is the way I would describe it, and calm is certainly necessary, I found, in a crisis, but I'm also confident, and I'm confident because of the 25 years of work that I've had the pleasure of doing. Just a really quick story that I like to share because it's always interesting how life kind of takes you on a journey that isn't always planned, right? When I first graduated from college, I, like many young adults fresh out of college, thought that I would land that six-figure job, right? I learned very quickly that that wasn't realistic at all. I applied for positions, and most employers wanted individuals with experience. And I remember thinking, how am I ever going to get some experience if you all won't hire me? Right. But I applied for a job at the housing authority in my hometown, Aiken, South Carolina. It was for a part time resident services assistant. And I remember thinking, I do not want this job. It's part-time. It's not going to pay me what I'm worth because remember, I'm thinking I'm landing a six-figure job. In fact, I wanted to work with juvenile delinquents. That was my goal. I thought I would work in a shelter with troubled kids because I felt that with my own personal background, I could relate to them and help them onto a better life, right? And so that was the goal. But I got this interview for this position, and I had I will say, unmitigated goal. That's the way I will describe it. The audacity to call the employer and reschedule the interview. So, interview scheduled, but I'm calling because that day and time no longer works for me. And it didn't work for me because I decided I'm going to drive to Charlotte and stay with a girlfriend and just get out and beat the pavement, as they would say, to try and find another job, that six-figure job, right? Well, that didn't work out. When I got back to Aiken, I did finally interview for the position, and I ended up getting the job on the spot. From there, within 6 months, it was a full-time position. And I always tell people that housing really chose me. I didn't set out to be an affordable housing provider. I don't think most of us do in this career path, right? But I didn't set out. I thought I'd do something different, but what I realized very quickly was that I was where I was supposed to be. I have had the pleasure of working in almost every department within the housing authority. It's just been my career has really catapulted, and it catapulted quickly. Um, and I was surprised and taken aback by that to some degree because it just wasn't what I set out to do. But when you are working in a field that you're really passionate about, and I had good reason to be passionate about housing. I certainly did not. I'll say I came from meager beginnings. And so I know what it is to be housing secure. So it only made sense once I was there that I would be committed and passionate about that kind of work. And so yeah, it's interesting again as I began the journey that life sometimes takes you on, but it's all of those experiences that really equipped me for this new space of being the Olivia Pope of the industry, right? The fixer of the industry. I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
You said housing chose me. And there's something really profound there about realizing you were seeking for opportunity, but yet all of a sudden, some type of destiny decided to step in. And you've made impact in all of these agencies. So let's talk about Indianapolis right now
Sure.
because you have also brought your fixer skills
Yes.
and your personality and your decades of experience into another situation that is documented to have some issues. So, talk us through because you have already stepped in with your hands full.
Yes.
You're already announcing a 12-month recovery plan. So, walk us through your vision and your hope and what you're doing there in Indianapolis now.
Yes, absolutely. So I actually stepped into the role of CEO as Indianapolis Housing Agency in February of this year. So I've been on board now for about 4 months or so. The time honestly is truly flying because I'm having fun. I'm doing the work that I am so passionate about. So it's truly an honor and a privilege. Indianapolis Housing Agency is a great agency. It, like many housing authorities across the country, is facing its share of challenges. This organization has gone through some significant transitions over the years, even with changes in leadership. They have gone through maybe 6 or 7 CEOs in the last just 4 years, and that's pretty significant. It speaks volumes in terms of some of the challenges that really exist within the organization. But I jumped in both feet, committed to doing the work that needed to be done. Of course, I did all of my research prior to joining the organization as much as I could find, and it wasn't favorable. As you mentioned, we're
Mhm.
on record for not being the most stellar of housing agencies. And certainly we're not proud of that, but we are committed to turning things around. Um, when was it? 12 weeks? It was 12 weeks. After 12 weeks, on May 12th, marked my 12th week. I launched what I call a 12-month action plan, a new day in Better IHA. I was really intentional about the name of the action plan, and because I thought it important to um, respect those who might have come before me, right? We know that there is always room for improvement.
Right.
So I wanted to um, express our goal, right? Our ultimate goal is to be better. And part of being better is we're going to be a new and different IHA. And obviously, considering being in HUD receivership, it's necessary, right? But it through that title, it demonstrates our commitment to doing the work, because that's where we are. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a number of challenges ahead of us.
Mhm.
Um, but through a new day and better IHA, we are focusing on five really critical areas. And of course, one of those critical areas I've spoken about already, and that is focusing on people. People is a big part. Finances is another part. Being responsible and good stewards of the resources that are extended to our organization. Also focusing on operations. If it's important to when you're running a business, that we run this business as responsibly as we can. That means taking a look at our policies, our procedures, and how we are conducting business to ensure that, again, we are adhering to whatever regulations that might apply. We're also looking at our properties where we have families residing, housing. Our goal is to ensure that we are providing the best um, quality, affordable housing for those that we serve. Like agencies across the agency, we have aged inventory, and aged inventory equates to deferred maintenance needs. The last the last article I read from HUD regarding the deferred maintenance needs that exist across the country, there's a backlog of about $70 billion. That is huge. It's a real challenge again that we're facing everywhere, no matter what city your housing authority is in. We have really aged inventory with a lot of deferred maintenance needs, and so we're committed to coming up with a strategy that allows us to provide the best quality, affordable housing for those that we serve, and it will be through a number of different methods by which we'll get there, right? Some of our properties we will sell. As a matter of fact, we have out currently an RFP for the sale of seven of our multifamily communities. These multifamily communities have some deferred maintenance needs that unfortunately exceed the resources that we have
Mhm.
available to address them. And so the decision was made in partnership, of course, with the investors, that it was in the best interest of the families that reside there, the best interest, obviously, of IHA and the investors to sell those properties. So that's part of our strategy to addressing some of our property needs.
Mhm.
So I think I named all five of the pillars of focus through the New Day and Better IHA 12-month action plan. It's really solid. It's comprehensive. And it's certainly a plan that will, if followed, will allow us to be the agency that we should be, an agency that this community can be proud of, an agency that our residents can be proud of.
Mhm. Given your experience, is there anything that strikes you as really different about the Indianapolis landscape, for good or for bad?
Yes, there is certainly one thing that was appealing to me as I considered the IHA opportunity, and that was the established partnerships.
Mhm,
Oftentimes, when an organization is in crisis mode, as was the situation when I joined Columbia Housing in Columbia, South Carolina. When I joined that organization first as the chief operating officer, I was actually sought after by Ivory Matthews, who joined the organization as CEO. She called me before accepting the opportunity to ask me if I would consider joining her, understanding that it would be a heavy lift and
mhm.
that I had the skills and expertise to help her to move the agency forward. But when we joined that organization, they were certainly in crisis. Unfortunately, just a few months before we joined, the agency had experienced loss of life. We had two people to pass away from carbon monoxide poisoning. So, as you would imagine, everyone had turned their backs on the organization. So, that was certainly a heavy lift, but it was to be expected
Yeah.
based on what had happened, right? But what I have found here in Indianapolis is that the relationships were there
Hmm.
as I came in the door. I have had so many meetings with different community partners and local government, the mayor.
Mhm.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the mayor prior to joining the organization.
Yeah.
And very personable man, but passionate about affordable housing and committed to providing the support that the city county government could
Yeah.
provide to our organization because they too are committed to seeing things turned around. You don't often have that when you join an organization. In most organizations that I've joined that have been troubled or in receivership, I've had to forge a relationship
Mhm.
with local government, with the mayor. And this community was different in that I came in and they welcomed me with open arms and a lot of the different community organizations and groups. There's a philanthropic group has who's been extremely supportive and wanting to provide resources to the organization, and that's different and certainly was attractive to me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with so many individuals and organizations who are equally committed to our success. See the value in the work that we provide and the services that we provide for the individuals that we serve in this community.
Mhm. You mentioned a good call out here because you would think that city county community collaboration is just one of the basic pillars of doing what you have to do, but you don't realize it until you don't have it. And
Right.
so now that you've been able to step into a community that actually has that collaboration in place, there's some momentum there for you that
Absolutely.
you're not having to start from scratch. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you this too, just to add to that, in April of last year, when the organization first went into receivership,
mhm,
there was a partnership on paper actually between the city, county government, and also HUD.
mhm,
I want to make certain that I point out that HUD has been extremely instrumental in our recovery efforts. We have had HUD officials in and out of the office since I joined the organization almost weekly. And not just in and out of the organization from a monitoring
Yeah.
standpoint, in and out of the organization, actually doing the work,
Hmm.
processing research, processing rent increases, actually doing the work. And so I'm also super grateful to have that level of support because having been in other agencies that have either been in receivership or troubled, that hasn't always been the case.
Yeah.
I'll never forget in Colombia, for instance, oh gosh, within our first 2 months, maybe 3 months, we had one audit, one review, one assessment, one evaluation after another from HUD, which was difficult,
Hmm.
but it's what it was. That's not been the case here. Here, HUD has said, hey, we know that IHA has some challenges, but we're willing to roll up our sleeves and help to
Hmm.
resolve some of those challenges. So they have been extremely instrumental in this journey. And I'm grateful for that partnership as well. And they've put a lot of financial resources as well
Hmm.
behind supporting us. We have a technical assistance grant. We actually are working with APT Associates and also Quadale. And I've had the pleasure of working with Quadale at a number of different agencies, and I like to say that Quadale is kind of my lifeline. Just because I've had so many great experiences from a capacity perspective, from an expertise perspective. Quadale has been really it's proven to be a housing solutions organization, and so I'm grateful to have them here too. Through that partnership, we've actually been able to see some real progress. I'm getting data now that I wasn't getting when I first joined the organization. So, again, not to because it's you, it's it's truth. And I'm just
Hmm.
grateful and thankful that I was able to through HUD's partnership and also a separate partnership with the city actually bring Quadell on board to provide some
Hmm.
additional supports.
Well, we appreciate that shout out. We're a little bit like you guys over there in the fact that we run toward the fire also. And so we really have a vested interest to see housing authorities, especially Indianapolis. It's a little near and dear to our hearts for multiple reasons. But we are also one of those collaborative partners with you, cheering, rolling up sleeves, and really helping get progress made for the residents and for the community. So we are there with you right there with our fire gear and our fire
Yes,
hose right there standing along with you, helping this happen.
yes, yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, as we close out here, is there something that you really grab a hold on to give you hope? Because even the firefighters, using our analogy, they need to take a water break every once in a while. Um, and what is it that you're clinging to doing? Because I'm sure there's people saying, "Hey, 12-month turnaround plan, we 90 days, I'm sure there's like this tension to kind of expedite this, but what's giving you hope and giving you momentum to stay there on the front lines, comparing like your future, like you're visioning what it can be, but
Sure.
there's a lot of work to get it there. So what's
Yes.
giving you hope to do that?
Yeah, that is a great question. Wow, what's giving me hope? So I do not want to get spiritual, but it's who I am, and I want to be completely transparent in sharing, helping you appreciate my thought process in this journey,
Mhm.
especially. I am a firm believer in things not happening by chance or by coincidence, right?
Hmm.
I am a firm believer that things happen as they are supposed to. And I am a selfless leader, is how I will describe myself. Um, I remind myself during the challenges, during the tough times, during those moments of frustration, because certainly I've had many. And that's natural when there simply aren't enough resources, right, to
Right.
go around. Um, I wish we could provide housing for everybody.
Uh-huh.
I really do. It's the thing that keeps me up at night. What I where I have found solace, where I often take myself to when I am feeling the way that I just described, is I remind myself that it's not about me.
Hmm.
That is when I can stop feeling frustrated, stop feeling discouraged, stop feeling despondent, if you will, because it's really an honor to be used in the way in which I am lending myself, right? It's an honor. And I know that because it's not about me and it's more about those that I am of service to, um, it keeps me grounded and it keeps me motivated and encouraged. Um, you know, again, coming from meager beginnings, I have two boys, and I tell them both that they are really privileged. They have access to people and things that I didn't have access to coming up, right? They've been exposed to things that I hadn't been exposed to because my mom couldn't, single parent home, couldn't afford to expose me to
Right.
those things. So I am really, really careful not to take things for granted. And I've instilled that in them. And I've instilled in them the fact that they were created for a higher purpose.
Hmm.
And it's beyond who they are and it's beyond who I am.
Yep. Well, I like hearing that because it sounds to me that you're creating a new legacy for not just you, but your kids. And if I can parallel that now for the Indianapolis Housing Agency. And but when you have that inner core strength you're talking about, then you can kind of keep filling that and you can realize. Um, that you're using your time and your talents for the right reasons, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. For the thousands of families here that are relying on Indianapolis Housing Agency to get it right.
To get it right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to have you here to hear all the great things that you're doing for the Indianapolis Housing Agency.
Thank you.
You have a ton of people behind you supporting,
Yes.
cheering you on, propping you up to make this turnaround happen. And your track record, we know you will.
Thank
So
you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Katie, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to share. And I hope that, my colleagues will take something from it and apply it in their own lives and on their own journeys.
agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Goar. To find out more about Katie, go to quadel.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.